Star Trek Voyager's 7 biggest Janeway and Chakotay feuds, ranked worst to best, despite a close relationship on Star Trek Voyager. Captain Janeway, Kate Mulgrew, and Commander Chakotay, Robert Beltran, had some intense feuds during the show's 7 seasons. Janeway and Chakotay are one of the most interesting command teams in the Star Trek timeline. The two started as fairly cut and dry enemies when Janeway was sent to track down Chakotay's Maquis ship after it disappeared in the Badlands. However, after both her and Chakotay's crews became stranded in the Delta Quadrant in Voyager's pilot episode, Caretaker, Janeway and Chakotay agreed to combine their resources and work together to get home. After Chakotay's crew became part of Voyager's cast of characters, Janeway and Chakotay embarked on building an intense friendship that was sometimes charged with romantic chemistry. Despite never becoming a couple on Voyager, the two shared an intimacy that most other Star Trek command teams did not, and this was evident in numerous episodes of the series. Janeway and Chakotay generally worked well together, eventually navigating their ship and crew to safety back in the Alpha Quadrant by the end of Voyager's run, but there were also numerous times when they didn't get along. Episode 14, Alliances, was one of the earliest Voyager episodes that depicted a real conflict between Janeway and Chakotay, but ultimately the feud was contained to a single episode and had little impact on the show as a whole. During the episode, Janeway and Chakotay engaged in an argument over whether to attempt an alliance with the Kazin, who had been terrorizing the ship since Voyager Season 1. In actuality, the fight between Janeway and Chakotay boiled down to whether or not to adopt more Maquis principles and tactics to survive in the Delta Quadrant against things like the Kazin's attacks. While the discussion of Starfleet versus Maquis issues was interesting, this feud was so short-lived that it's almost completely forgettable in the grand scheme of Voyager's timeline. The fact that the episode heavily involved the Kazin also didn't help the popularity of Janeway and Chakotay's argument. The Kazin were a universally hated Voyager villain, and most of their storylines ended up being ones that audiences would rather forget. Ultimately, although an interesting microcosm of some larger issues in Voyager's first 2 seasons, Alliances didn't contain a particularly juicy Janeway and Chakotay feud.